It Ends With Us was actually better than I expected it to be, despite all the controversy surrounding it.
Why? What have you heard?
I will just react to the movie. Few things that I find very good and a few things that I don't find so good. I will go over the problems first so we can end on a high note. Is that fair? The movie actually has a bit more nuance than I thought. That gave me hope. Like, all is not lost in modern entertainment. But of course, we have some problems. I think it's mainly a genre problem. We have this very heavy topic of sexual abuse and more broadly domestic abuse. Also intergenerational trauma, big thing and very serious topic. They really try to go over it in a serious manner because obviously why wouldn't you? That's the theme of your film. But they have this weird intermingling of this Sex and the City vibe or like Eat, Pray, Love, feel good movie, this sexual, cringy, erotic novel, 50 Shades of Grey. It doesn't really work. This character of Blake Lively has a very weird wardrobe and a weird fixation on shoes. Every time she enters the room, we see a close-up of the shoes. It's very weird, and I guess I didn't want to talk about the controversy, but it seems like that's a Blake Lively cut of that. Doesn't really serve the story. And then we have the feel-good vibe of when she opens her flower shop, which she renovates herself with some help. They open the shop and it's just millions of dollars worth of flowers in the shop, and the interior design is like top-notch. It's weird. I'm gonna go over the first scene where I think the directing and acting gets in the way of the movie. Spoiler alert, obviously. I'm not gonna go through all the summary and stuff. You can watch the movie or you cannot watch the movie. It doesn't really matter for this video, but if you're a person who's really sensitive to spoilers and you want to watch the movie, then okay, be warned. First scene, it's the first encounter. Of course, they flirt and they're gonna find each other attractive.
Oh. What do you do for a living?
Neurosurgeon. Is that funny?
Oh my God, please. I'm so sorry. No, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You spent way too you spent way too much time.
This laughing. I can understand why Blake Lively chose to do that, but it's overdone. She tries to establish chemistry and she tries to establish that she's not in that world and she's like more quirky than that and more like grounded, and she just opens her flower shop and he's a neurosurgeon. She finds it funny how out of place this is. Understandable, but like take it down a notch because it takes me out of it and it makes us think that this is more Blake Lively trying to promote her character moment and the acting than to tell the story. They make these pauses and they wait and then they linger on and they just look at each other like, ugh. And if she just said it, just laughed shortly like, fuck, I thought you were a crypto bro, man. Oh man, I'm so out of place here, subtext. It would have been fine, but they try to establish chemistry. And I know that, like, you try to laugh because then when you laugh, your character shines through, and when you lose, you laugh. And directors always promote that because they think that you are natural in that way, but it can actually be to the detriment of the scene.
Yeah, and I'm about to open my first flower shop. Yeah, it's a lifelong dream, so.
This also completely cool moment when he interjects and they almost say together because he's fast in his head and he says flower shop. Very cool moment. I think the acting and the idea, the rhythm of the scene is that I like very much. Very easy, very natural. And then this lingering again, this staring, and instead of just laughing or just like looking at her, like he can say flower shop and it's like, yeah, I knew, and that's insane. And go on, but no, they linger on, and that's like to establish the chemistry, the little spark. It's like the tension.
Have a good cry and hopefully meet a wealthy neurosurgeon. So.
Sorry.
Same thing here. Just a pause. Just say sorry. It could be faster, and then I think the chemistry would be better if you're fast to say sorry.
Okay, just shock me. You can say anything.
I want to have sex with you.
This is straight out of the fantasy of a middle-aged housewife, like what good-looking, insanely confident neurosurgeons say that are just Casanovas. Maybe people do that and I'm just not the Casanova of the Casanovas. That's fine with me. I'm usually not around when men, especially neurosurgeons, make their moves. But I have a guess that most of the time that doesn't happen. And it's pretty weird and cringy. It's cringy.
Too far?
No.
This?
Depends what happens next.
Well, he's not gonna fuck her in the armpit. Like, what the fuck? I don't actually want that genre mixed. Like, I want the serious story of the domestic abuse, which could be a powerful story, or at least is an important story, but don't get into this whole Sex and the City, Eat, Pray, Love vibe, 50 Shades of Grey vibe. For me, it's done through all the pauses, through the cringy lines, and they try to portray a sexy chemistry. I don't think it's natural. And now we get to the second scene where I think the film shines. Quite at the end, the hospital scene where her baby is already born. The guy meets up with her just because of that. Otherwise, they're separated, obviously because he did some shit, and she lets him see the baby. But then she quickly says this.
I want a divorce.
Understandable. Some guys can earn the right to be actually separated from their family. And this could be argued to be one of those cases, like domestic violence. It's a no-go. Because she lets him in and treats him with respect, because she recognizes that he should at least see the baby. He thinks there's a chance, but then she quickly cuts that line.
It's not for you or me, it's for her.
And look how cool they are. The film is not portraying him as the monster here, although he has this side to him, but he also has a nice side, which is obviously not enough to excuse him. Nobody thinks that. But she treats him with respect. It makes her strong, and it doesn't decide for the viewer what he has to think. I like that. That's a thing you don't see often in modern films, because movies are so afraid. They're condoning violence, and they're not saying that it's bad, and like obviously they're not saying it's good. They're just treating each other with respect.
She came to you and said, my boyfriend hit me. What would you say to her? The person she loved was hurting her. What would you say to her?
I would beg her to leave him.
Yeah.
That's the message. And he gets it. And he's actually understanding of it. So that paints both characters pretty strong, also with dignity. Although you could totally say that a guy who's a domestic abuser doesn't deserve any dignifying light shining on him or whatever. I can totally get that. I'm not here to dispute that, but it makes the message stronger that he understands it. He's a smart guy, and he's also in principle a nice guy. Usually he has his dark side and he cannot control it, and he's also traumatized by shooting his little brother when he was 6, so it's kind of, that's where it probably comes from. Not any excuses, but he's damaged. He doesn't know how to regulate his emotions, and he's aggressive. Funny thing, he said, I will go to therapy to change if you take me back. After almost a year, he could have done therapy then. He didn't do it, so he's not really committed to go the whole way. He's not gonna change. She puts this test in front of him and says, if our daughter was beaten and abused by this guy, what would you say to her? And he's like, fuck yeah, now I understand, of course. Double standard. If I say, now you need to take me back, I need to say that to her then. But I would never do that. I commend the film for that, because nowadays it's very hard to find movies that dare to show things and let the audience come to their own conclusions. Now keep in mind here, this is not very realistic. Typically an abuser would not accept the breakup that well. So look at it more as an escapist fantasy, which can totally work. But to have things work out so well for a victim of abuse is extremely unlikely. It's not the best movie in the world, doesn't need to be. It has a strong theme. It doesn't really pull through on that theme because of the genre mix-up, but it finishes strong. And it has some interesting points. The acting generally is good. I like Blake Lively's approach, but you see the things that I pointed out are just a little mismanaged. In my point of view, I would have done it differently. Obviously, you can do it however you want. If you like it, you like it. Fair. And I hope I see you in the next one.